One of my favorite variables is, sorry, phasage. One of my favorite variables is, when we talk about running a resistance training program, is exercise selection and the variety that can come from that. Now, there's a lot, there's some pushback a lot of times against variety, and I think rightly so, if you're just doing variety for variety's sake. But the benefits of variety of training, so what I'm talking about here is, how many ways can you do a biceps curl, right? How many ways can you do an overhead press? A lot of different ways. The benefits of variety of training is, if we think about something like an overhead press, that can be pretty taxing on the shoulder joint. If I could change up the way in which I tax the shoulder musculature, the deltoid, that might be a good idea. So if I could provide variety in there, I can keep my delt gains coming without beating up the joint. The mental standpoint is such a big one, right? If Monday is always you do this same routine over and over again, it gets boring in a hurry, and your desire to push yourself through it is going to get very, very low. Like your motivation will drop. I mentioned before joint wear and tear. You do the same motion over and over and over again. That gets a little bit of a problem potentially for some of those joints. Some people like the same routine over and over and over again. If you're one of those people, just make sure you have a good routine. You're growing in volume if you want to get bigger. You're growing in intensity if you want to get stronger. But I think for most people, at least the accessory exercises can be rotated in and out successfully and provide a little bit more of a training stimulus and work some of those neutralizers, stabilizers. All right, so here's some rules of variety training though, so you don't just, it's not just abused. I'm not saying do it all the time. If you're a newbie, if you're a new exerciser, don't do a lot of variety. Okay, so if you have a vertical pull, is a lat pull down in there, do that twice a week, maybe once to start, do that twice a week, just do lat pull down until you see the gains in that exercise start to drop off. In other words, how much you're lifting really drop off. You feel incredibly confident about how you're doing the exercise, that it's done properly, and then you start to get sick of it perhaps. Like, okay, I'm tired of doing this exercise. Now, if it's within a week or two that you're starting to get tired of it, suck it up and keep working. If it's, you're into a third cycle, so you've been doing this for a month or two, and now you're like, okay, I've noticed the gains in strength are dropping off, my engagement in the exercise is getting lower, and I have the technique down. Maybe it's time for a new challenge. So on one of your 2 days, keep the other one lat pull down, go ahead and throw in there, pull-up machine, okay, or change the handle on the lat pull down, all right, so, or change your grip, make it a little bit wider, but that'll, again, give you a new challenge mentally, but it also change how the musculature is recruited. So if you do a neutral grip pull-up on the machine, that's going to reduce the amount of lat activation potentially that occurs, at least the way it was done with the lat pull-down, and incorporate more of your arms. It's going to be a new challenge. Doesn't mean your lats are not engaged, but you're going to feel them in a different way. You're going to go through a greater range of motion as you pull yourself up in between the handles on the pull-up machine. And so, again, the activation total may be a little bit lower, but the way in which the musculature is recruited is going to be very different. And that can be a good thing. Our muscles are not just one big globs of, responsive tissue. They have different regions that are recruited, especially the bigger musculature. Look at the shoulder. There's 3 different aspects, which also, those different aspects can also be recruited a little bit differently. So, there's nothing wrong with a little variety in this piece to help keep building mass. That'll also help strength gains. If you change up your bench routine from, you're going to continue to do bench all the time, and then the other day you're going to do incline DB, a 45-degree incline. That's going to recruit more of your clavicular head, or what we call the upper trap or the upper pec, a little more anterior delt, which is really important if you want to see bench continue to get to see gains. That delt and that anterior delt and that triceps is really important for bench gains. And so, throwing that in there instead of 2 days of bench is going to be important to bolster some of those limiting muscles perhaps on the regular exercise. All right, so beginners, don't do a lot of variety. As you get intermediate, go ahead and start to throw in one exercise in per week to change it up. Again, same rules apply. Once you kind of get tired of it, at least give it a cycle, at least 4 weeks, if not 2, especially when you're just kind of getting into this variety thing. Or you see your strength gains start to tail off, go ahead and rotate it out for another one of a similar movement pattern. And if you don't know those exercises, that's where a coach can help. You can always YouTube it, and hopefully that you get the good information. But just think about the pattern. How many different ways you can do a horizontal pull, right, on a machine, DB row. Now, when you're selecting the variety, I mentioned before the pull-up machine is going to give a different activation pattern. Some things you might want to consider. So if you do a DB row, think about the arm alignment when you do that dumbbell row. That's kind of a closer in, elbow back, not a real wide grip type of activity. It's going to be great for almost thinking about like the hammer grip or the neutral grip pull up. Be a good complement then with that DB row to do something a little bit wider, like a wide grip seated cable row might be a good idea. So you're recruiting the musculature, that's responsible for horizontal pulling, but you're getting a preferential recruitment of different parts of that musculature depending on the grip width. So again, it's not just variety for variety's sake. Oh, I'm just going to do these exercises and they look fun. Think about what you're doing. You could have a narrow and wide type of approach, or a wide and a medium approach, or and when you think about the bench, I'm going to have my regular bench, and then I'm going to go really high in the incline this week at 60, so it's more shoulder dominant. Okay, in my shoulder work, I'm going to do regular overhead press. Maybe I'm going to do it narrow grip this week, and then I'm going to do an Heron's press, and with DBs pushing straight out to the side, or I'm going to do a neutral grip in nice and close. And I'll do a wide grip barbell over the top. Okay, so wide grip barbell bench press, neutral grip. On something that's a little closer, that's a little bit easier on the shoulders too. So you're like, it really taxes my shoulders when I do barbell overhead press. Then I'm going to do a neutral grip press to complement it. Maybe I don't even do a press on the other day. I just do some front raises and lateral raises with the dumbbells. I mean, the possibilities are endless. That type of activity would be a lot easier on the shoulder than overhead pressing all the time. A machine with a neutral grip can be a lot easier than doing a barbell conventional grip over the top. The possibilities are endless, but when you're selecting your exercises, don't do, don't do, that's blanket statements, I hate those. What I would recommend, for the most part, is change something even within those exercises. So change the grip and the position of the hands, all those type of things in the variety piece. So, don't just do lat pull down and then do the pull-up machine with the exact same grip. Change up the grip a little bit. Do a mixed grip, perhaps, on either machine. Probably a little easier on the pull-up machine than it is on lat pull down. Okay, I hope that makes sense. You almost have variety and variety. But if you're doing variety pieces, if you just change the exercise alone without any kind of thought to given how wide grips are and position of the hands and so on, that'll at least be a mental stimulus. I'll give you that. That's why I said don't ever do that. I think that's a little bit of an overstatement. But if you have some variety that has this wide, narrow, medium kind of approach, different grips, different inclines, whatever it is, that's going to be even more beneficial to providing additional stimulus to parts of the musculature that are part of the main exercise you're interested in, that may get you over the hump in terms of seeing better results. Like again, the bench, if you do close grip bench on the other day, you're going to get some massive tricep work, and that could be what's holding back your regular bench press. Or doing board bench, hitting sticking points, that could be what's holding back your bench press, right? The tricep and shoulder activation a little bit higher up position off like a 3-board bench or something. All right, hope that makes sense. I just wanted to talk about variety a little bit. I think it'd be useful also in hypertrophy training. The way you even change your hands on the dumbbell, right, can change the activation of like in a side raise. What I would just caution against is just going nuts with variety and changing it all the time, and then you never get any sort of momentum in terms of building up either volume or strength. So don't be in an incredible hurry to change exercise, but I would still do it. If you're a barbell athlete, or there's certain exercises, that have a high amount of, results associated with them, like a squat or a leg press, you might not ever rotate those out. Okay, but the exercises that are supporting those, or on the other day, your other quad dominant exercise, it might change. If the leg press is central to your program, then keep it in there, but maybe on the other day do some sort of other quad dominant exercise. If the deadlift is central to your program, if you're a power lifter and you're doing the big 3, you're probably going to leave those in there in some way. Even those will probably have variety as you work your way to the floor in a deadlift, or the different types of benching that we can do, right? Or the different types of squatting from box all the way up to the competition style. But on the other day, you might do some other type of activity, right? So like maximal speed days, you're probably going to have a different type of squat, whether that's accommodating resistance more so on one day than the other on a box, or then a conventional squat on the other day, like a competition style squat on the other day with real load, perhaps, probably not, but real load. Okay, depending on powerlift you are and what programs you subscribe to. Talking in circles a little bit, I apologize, but I'm just trying to kind of promote this idea of variety. It has boundaries, it has rules in order to use it effectively. But if you've been training a while and you're stagnant, I would highly recommend it. Last piece, You know, the Russians knew about this stuff a long time ago when they're weightlifting and even just general sports. They would do all kinds of movements early in a training cycle, body weight movements, you know, everything you think of. They'd have just, you know, tons of exercises, you know, 50 exercises. And then as the season got, whatever they were doing, got closer to an important time, they'd narrow down the exercise selection. I mean, that's smart, right? Early on, you have this engagement in the program, you have this excitement about doing something different. You build up all these neutralizers, stabilizers, then you go into the actual training. Let's say you're a weightlifter, and now you start doing cleans and squats and things that you always have done, and you start to narrow in on those things. Now those exercises will have variety pieces too, so off the block, off the hang, and all those different things. But the closer you get to competition, then even some of those things start to dwindle a little bit, and you spend more of your time on the actual competition lifts before you go to the competition. And that may be 4 weeks out. It may be, you know, depending on like weightlifting, no, because it's so technical, but maybe something powerlifting that you don't want to hit those competition lifts and get stale too early. Maybe you wait until 4 weeks out if you're an experienced lifter. It just depends on the individual, right? Different coaches have different ideas on this, but you know that like a deadlift and a back squat can beat you up pretty quick. So if you do, you know, 12-week cycle with both of those, that could be rough without any variety pieces in there. So variety is important. It can be a little bit daunting at times when to use it, but just think, you know, the situation you're in. If you're just going to the gym and you're working out and you're just starting, don't do it. If you've been going to the gym a while, start maybe changing some of your accessory exercises, like how you do your biceps, you know, how you do your shoulder presses. You know, keep your squat in there if you like your leg press, and those are central to your rep program, but you can think about how to do other exercises differently. Even the prone hamstring, if you know, externally rotate your feet, it's going to be a different stimulus on the inside of your hamstrings, different hamstring muscles, than if you externally rotate them or leave them the same. I mean, there's all kinds of ways, you know, change your foot width. There's different ways to do it if you like a certain exercise. Like I want to provide a little variety to it, though, easily done with the way you position your body. You know, if you're an athlete, you're probably going to start with, you know, if you're an experienced athlete, you're going to start with a lot of exercise, or a big exercise pool, a lot of variety, and then move to more central exercises as you get closer to a season, perhaps. You know, in so doing, you'll see that, you know, there's a rhyme to the reason with variety. It's not just randomly thrown up. I think that's where a lot of coaches get a little bit concerned about variety, and understandably so. I agree with that. It's just doing things. You know, every week I change something and I'm doing all this, but what are you doing? Are you seeing any progress in the exercises before you rotate them out? That's the big question. All right, I'll quit talking in circles. I just like talking about exercise variety. I just get super pumped about it. So if you have any questions, you can always message me. Check out my IG page. Subscribe to my channel as well for other videos on a variety of topics in fitness, nutrition, and training.